Hello and welcome back to the Signal Over Noise podcast, the short, sharp podcast that aims to give you practical takeaways to help you figure out what's important to you in a busy, chaotic world and how to build habits and routines for getting it done without taking away too much of your precious time. Thank you for sharing it with us. To that point, this episode is part 2 of our 10 ways to navigate the pitfalls of a new creator's journey. For the rest of it, please check out the previous episode. Otherwise, when we talk about 6 through 10, please hear 1 through 5. Of this episode's 5 challenges and how to mentally prepare for them as part of your new creator's journey with me, Owen Evans, and my brother, Sam, who's here with us now.
Welcome back, Owen. How are we doing?
We're all good. We're plugged back in. We're just using a bit of a ropier camera, and I'll do better in the next one. I'll charge up everything and stick it out.
Yeah, I was just adding my notes there, mate. I was saying I need to actually take notes and think before I speak. Stick to the topic. It was fun to ad lib. But otherwise, we do run the risk of
blowing it out on time for sure. Yeah. So speaking of sticking to topic, let's run through these 7, 8, 9, 10, eh?
Go on, you crush it.
Number 7, so that's format and design struggles. Early doors, you can spend a lot of mental energy or cognitive load umming and ahhing about whether to stick to an aesthetic that seems to be working a little bit and a format or to twist. And I guess what I think is important here is knowing that you can do your real world testing, trial other aesthetics and formats, and you can even specifically ask your audience whether they preferred this, that, or the other, and reality test your assumptions, and that gets it out of your own head. And they might not give you the right answer, but they might give you a right enough answer to keep moving forwards. And these things can be redesigned in time. Like you're not bound to just stick to any one particular thing. The most successful podcasts aren't still using exactly the same logos, or they're not bound to keep using the same logos they started with. Some may, but you don't need to. So whatever aesthetic choices you make early days, remember that it's essentially an experiment that if it goes well, you'll keep doing it. But if it goes badly, then it's an experiment. You've learned from it. You're going to go for something else. And a counterexample is sort of thinking about, McDonald's. Like, it's popular not because people are getting something that's absolute gold, but people know what they're going to get. So they sort of resort to it when they're going away or when they're in a rush or that sort of stuff. You eventually do want to settle on sort of reliable enough structure that works for you, that your audience enjoy. McDonald's didn't invent their menu and stick to it. Like, they've changed with the times and they've not been totally rigid.
Absolutely.
Counterpoint to that is that, you don't want to become too formulaic. If people are allowing you real estate in their ear holes, they're doing that generously because you're providing something of value and of benefit to them. But we can get bored. Over familiarity and predictability can eventually breed contempt. So there's a balance out there. Certain things you want to keep constant, like good audio quality, that sort of thing. And other things you can go and look for and play with and experiment. Number 8 is quickly finding it impossible to stick to your own deadlines. So maybe that's because you've modeled yourself after your favorite podcaster who records 3 episodes each week. This might seem like a sweet spot in terms of you think your budding audience deserve that too, and you give it a go. All of a sudden you're snowed in under self-imposed tasks and deadlines, barely able to remember to eat and sleep. What's happened here? Well, the secret sauce is that they've got elves in their closet that make the shoes for them when they go to bed. All the big podcasts that are commercially successful can employ an army of behind-the-scenes fixers, guest organizers, makers, doers.
I think one thing as well to note here as well is like the reality of some of these costs are not crazy. If you're familiar with Fiverr or Upwork, one of the things that is a real good productivity hack actually is think about how much money you make in your day job. Assuming you have a 9 to 5, you want to create something that maybe would be your nest egg or your kind of future income. If you have some sort of income at the moment, then employing someone on Fiverr to do a menial task for you is actually a great way to get back a lot of time. Earlier I touched on doing some random graphics stuff. I could have paid someone on Fiverr in reality to do that, and I could have done some actual more high value work. It's actually our dad randomly who said this to me. It's don't waste your time doing £5 an hour jobs. Do £500 an hour jobs, which is very true. There's no leverage in me looking at icons and not printing off, but exporting various different versions of icons. Just something that had to be done. But in reality, I probably could have paid someone £30 to do that, or probably less actually, £20 online to do that for me. So yeah, there are an army of elves that are available to a lot of us, but
Yeah, such
just
a
be
good point.
careful.
Yeah, you're going to have to check the elves' work. If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, or whatever the expression is. But yeah, that's a really good point. Like, you can leverage the relative value of the currency that you earn in compared to somebody else's, and you don't have to bring on a full-time 40 hours a week employee for whom you're going to pay their national insurance or their social security. You can just find someone who's able to do sort of grunty work for you, and or you set expectations based on the process that you're willing to undertake and the work that you're willing and able to do, not based off of like what is best for the audience of an established professional podcaster.
Exactly.
As long as you're reasonably sort of reliable and predictable in what you're putting out and when, then people will come to expect that from you. And whatever it is, they'll either like it or lump it. And that's the case for all podcasts. Some are perhaps too frequent, and it's a bit of a turn off that, people don't want to give up that much of their time to a never ending sort of news cycle. So yeah, I think that's that. I think also in terms of workflow design and management, which again is something we'll probably get into in another episode, you can batch your tasks to get more of it done. You can do your script writing block and your recording block separately. Like we could do back to back episodes in the future, and you wouldn't really know the difference as to meeting up once a week and doing it, except maybe hairdos and all that.
Amen.
But again, you could keep that consistent if you wanted. Anyway, yeah, task switching takes time and effort. Next one, actually sort of pertaining to that one, is sort of the idea of having an emergency fund of saved videos or unpublished videos. Perhaps this is the next idea actually, because essentially your ability to do the side hustle or the project can be impaired by whatever it is that's the main thing in your life that can hit a big bump in the road and has to become sort of the thing that you're focused on. Or, it could be friends, family, loved one, whatever it is. If you've got this emergency fund of an extra episode or two in the bank, then you can smooth it out so that from an audience perspective, nothing's changed. And this will allow you to make a molehill out of a mountain.
A phrase.
Thanks. And then basically what this hopefully allows you to do is, even when you're not able to stick to your own self-imposed deadlines, you're still stacking wins rather than losses because you put out the thing, even though it was something that you'd actually made some other time and held back. So that creates that sense of progress and momentum, and it gets rid of the sort of brittleness or frailty of your journey. You no longer have to be someone who does the thing every week to succeed. You can have that week where you fall off the horse, and it's not devastating. It might happen. It probably will happen. So prepare for it. And then you can get back up, saddle up and crack on. Cool. So number 9 is the pitfall of chasing virality directly. The thing to keep in mind here, I think, is that the good shit sticks. I think that's a Tim Ferriss one, and he's done a lot of good shit and it's very sticky, but it's basically the process of doing something good and sharing that process with others is what will allow you to achieve virality. If you go chasing it directly, it's probably not going to be effective because you don't get to choose who crops, clips and shares your work. The point here is just do good work and make sure you've got your name, face or logo on it, and that virality will come to you. I think a really good example of this would be James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, sold something like 24 million copies apparently. Before he wrote Atomic Habits, he was a relative nobody. I guess the same would also be true of Matthew Walker with Why We Sleep. Like, he was an expert in his field, but he wasn't a commercially viable brand and entity in and of himself. And then he wrote Why We Sleep, and now he is.
Yeah, I mean, that probably goes back to the hockey stick thing. This is pointless. You get to a certain point and then it can go boom at the end. Just got to keep going. You can't control when you go viral.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last one, number 10, is that black swan events will occur, and unforeseeable challenges will need facing. No matter how much of this sort of stuff you do, sort of preparing for foreseeable trials and challenges, you still might get bowled over by something unforeseeable that's going to test you. So it's almost a bit of a cyclical sort of collapses in on itself maxim of prepare for the unpreparable. But it's basically knowing that no matter how much of this sort of stuff you do, you will encounter stuff that comes along with doing new complex things that you hadn't anticipated. And that's okay. And that's not a bug. That's a feature of what you're doing. You're going to encounter things you've never encountered before, and you're going to have to learn novel solutions or ways of getting around it or through it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just trying to think of like an example of that.
Yeah, so I know some people that have been down to Antarctica and worked as doctors on the research bases down there, and they're relatively young doctors that aren't experts in all of medicine. Nobody's an expert in all of medicine, but they know their thing and they've known enough to get through the, job application process and get the job, and they've trained for it and they know stuff. But then somebody's appendix bursts and they never taken one out before. Like, it's just unforeseen and they've not prepared for it. And the reason why it's a problem is because they've not prepared for it. If they knew how to take people's appendices out, it wouldn't be a problem. In that instance, when that happened, it was before Starlink was around. So nowadays, you would literally Google or YouTube how to do an appendectomy, and you'd teach yourself just in time, and you'd be fine.
Blimey.
Assuming some basic competencies, and it's higher risk than having a surgeon do it for sure. But it's better than allowing their appendix to go off and go septic on the inside in the arse end of nowhere. So what they did is they basically set up a really, really laggy phone relay to be coached through it by a surgeon in London.
Blimey. That is scary and wild. Yeah, okay. Was it Nick? Was that his name?
No, it wasn't Nick that you met, but yeah.
Someone else. That's cool.
It's the circles that my wife runs in, basically. That sort of super hardcore, outdoorsy, adventure, medic type.
Change the world type people. Love it though. Cool.
Yeah, so I think we're bringing this one into land now, Sam. So
better.
anything else you want to add?
Do my job.
When can people expect to hear from you next?
Probably same time next week, I guess.
If you have been listening, thank you.
Yeah, really, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mum. See you later. But yeah, sweet dude. I'll catch you same time next week.